we've been talking a lot today about what we're going to hear from Musk on the call in terms of his role at the company. You have said very firmly, like, Doge needs to go in terms of his focus. He needs to come back. Do you think we're going to get that today, Ross?
I do think we're going to get that. And I think we're going to get that also because his special government employee designation ends anyways at the end of May. So it's not like this is new information. I think he's just going to make it very clear. He's going to try to do anything to get the stock not to go lower. So he's going to say he's coming back to Tesla and he's going to be done with Doge and he's done his work and he's solved all these problems and now, I'll be back. And that's, I think, the message that people want to hear. And that is probably the only thing that could get the stock moving higher. So I expect to hear that.
Ross, as you look at the stock slide over the last few months now, 40% drop, we've had multiple periods like this in Tesla's history. How do you think this period, is it analogous in any way, I suppose, to prior drops? And how have you thought about the story as we get towards what feels like a pivot point in where it's been over the last 6 months?
People aren't going to like this statement, but Tesla is fundamentally a different story than where it was several years ago. I mean, Tesla was a massive growth story. It was a young, amazingly innovative technology company building cars and software. And now Tesla is a very mature EV maker with a CEO who doesn't work there, who says horrible things about lots of people that won't buy their cars anymore. And the biggest issue Tesla has is people just don't want their products, even though they're the best products in the market. So I don't know how they solve this. So I think Tesla's best days are behind it at this point. And until something really changes in the direction and or leadership at the company, especially with the board of directors, to try to get the company back on track, I see sales continuing to decline and with that revenues, profits, and everything else. So energy storage can only save you so much, which it did save them in the quarter because that's been a very strong part of the business. But automotive sales were just dismal.
What about all the other stuff, Ross? All the other reasons that people own this stock, right? The cheaper car that is supposed to be in production by the end of the first quarter, the robo-taxi, eventually the humanoid robots, the AI piece of it all. Is all of that enough at this point?
Well, when you're an investor, you look at the future and you have to try to model out what that future looks like economically. And so obviously a lower priced car was the most sensible thing that Tesla could have built. And then they didn't build it. And now I don't know what's happening with this, but I don't think there's a lower priced car. So let's just move on from that. A lower priced car is actually just a used Tesla, which you can buy for $20,000 or so online right now. So if you want a low priced Tesla, it's called a Model Y. Just go buy one. They're all online, used. They're great cars at a ridiculously cheap price. Then you have another problem because then there's so many used Teslas for sale, they have no reason to buy a new Tesla except it has a light bar on it. The light bar on the Model Y and the new Model Y is very nice, but is it really going to convince a whole new legion of buyers when they don't even advertise? No. So then you've got robots and the future of cybercab. And the cybercab business is not a business I want to be in because I think it took Uber forever to make money. And now you've got Waymo's, and I'm in an area where Waymo is very active and I watch Waymo's drive incredibly well every day while my full self-driving still is this clunky, software driving like a 12-year-old. And so I'm really upset that the software doesn't work and it's not even comparable to Waymo. So Waymo's expanding all over the world now, and I just don't see how Tesla catches them. And Waymo's got money. And then lastly, I just don't see a world anytime soon where we have robots walking around and doing our laundry and stuff. So if you can tell me when that's going to happen, that's how long it's going to be till Tesla makes money. Well, that could be 5 or 10 years from now. So I don't know about you, but I got to make clients money every year. And Tesla just doesn't seem to be doing what it needs to be doing.
Ross, you raised an interesting point about the cost of the car, because I know a lot of people who have been in like that, let's call it like that Audi, BMW sort of market, and they get a Tesla because it's a whole lot cheaper than those kinds of cars. But I think for a lot of people, it's sort of associated as like a luxury vehicle. Now, the company's been very forthright. They wanted lower cost cars. They make lower cost cars. You can get lower cost Teslas. And I'm just wondering if there's like a timeline here upon which the strategy starts to look more at premiumizing the brand rather than this mass appeal, mass robo-taxi networks, all those sort of things that have defined the company in the last, I don't know what it is, 4, 5, 6 years.
I would argue that Tesla was a premium brand when it started, and it's and I was worried about this many years ago, it looking a lot more like Toyota in the future than Mercedes and BMW. And that's what's happened, is it looks a lot more like Toyota now, and people don't consider Tesla a premium brand anymore. And so, the mass appeal brand works if everybody likes your brand, but if everybody hates your brand because your CEO supports like right-wing Nazi parties in Europe, it's really, really hard to sell cars. And so when you want to have mass appeal, I highly recommend that you act in a way that appeals to the masses. And so I'm not sure what Tesla is anymore. It's certainly not a premium brand anymore. I wouldn't consider it a mass brand because most people actually hate Tesla now. It's probably one of the most hated brands that I've ever seen, and it sucks. It's really sad that Elon's allowed this to happen to the company. So I'm not sure what they do with their brand moving forward, and I don't think they can be a premium brand, and nor are they focused on the premium market. If you look at a Rivian or a new Mercedes or BMW EV, they're so much nicer than Teslas.
Ross, every time we talk, we ask you if you still have the stock, either yourself or on behalf of clients. And it feels like you hold your nose and you just hold on to it.
Well, it's more the opposite. We acquired a lot of stock in the old days. We've owned it for 11 years and we've made a ton of money off of it. And for the last almost 3 years, we've been selling the stock. But it's really hard to sell, $100+ million worth of stock, easily, and there's a tax consequence that we've had to accept with that. And so I had a lot more hope than I have now that Tesla would right the ship, but now I think it's real tough, and for them to fix the ship now. And so long term, I still think Tesla has the best products. I think climate change is the most important issue that humans solve over the next 10 years. Tesla makes the best EVs, the best software for EVs. It makes energy storage products, the best charging experience. And if they focused on this, they could be wildly successful. The EV market in the United States growing 10% or more. EV market globally probably growing 25%. This is a great business. There's nothing wrong with it. So I have in this hope that either a new CEO takes over and fixes the brand, or Elon somehow changes or something, but my hope is running thin. And so, we end up selling the stock every week. We'll sell stock for clients depending on each client's situation. For many of our clients, they don't want to own Tesla anymore. So our position is about 40% of what it used to be, and we continue to whittle it down. But many people, our clients, very much care about climate in the future, and Tesla's still the best solution.
Ross, you talked about that possible executive change, I guess, get a new CEO. Is there I know Elon, has the comp package and has his control of the board and all that. Is there any scope on which a serious activist push could be made with someone who has enough capital in the stock that you could get movement? And I can see you kind of shaking your head here.
No, I kind of tried that in 2023 when I ran for the board, and I did get a lot of institutional support at that time. And one of the things I realized is there's no way that Elon's letting anybody on this board that isn't on his team, and everybody on the board is more than bought and paid for by Elon, and I realized what a mess I was getting into, so that's why I pulled out, because I just didn't want to be involved anymore, because the politics around that board is pretty bad. And so the fact of the matter is that right now, unless the board of directors is sacked, nothing's going to change at Tesla, and that's what needs to be done. And I think the attorney general, in California, should be suing the board of directors of Tesla for negligence. And that's, I think, the next step for many of these institutional shareholders and pensions, for the damage that's been done to the pensioners from a lack of board oversight and violation of NASDAQ rules. So I think the board needs to be replaced immediately. It's probably the worst board in the history of American business.
Wow, that's saying something, Ross. All right, well, as always, it's good to catch up with you. We appreciate you chatting with us about Tesla. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.